It's the 351st episode of the Unranked Podcast. This is Christian Humes here. We have Dan Weine.
Hello.
Welcome back. Glad to see you here, buddy.
It's been a while. It feels like longer, but it's probably only been a few weeks.
Yeah, I think it actually has only been a few weeks. And of course, I think that the gentleman we had on with you the last time, Tom Caswell.
I'm here. I'm still here.
I'm starting to think Tuna's like purposely ducking out on episodes Dan is on at this point.
Oh no, I've accused him of that already.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah.
J'accuse.
No, I'm sure he's not, but that is funny. I want to just jump right into this Pokemon. Let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
All right, Dan. The 351st Pokemon is called Castform. So this isn't a pre-evolution. This is a new line. We just finished an evolution last week. So I'm curious, what do you think this is?
Okay, so I'm thinking it's not so much going to be like a broken bone type cast. I'm thinking more like the cast system type cast. So I really have no idea still.
Holy fuck.
Oh my God. It learns surf.
It learns surf.
SERF.
Fucking no idea. Let's go with a fishing rod with eyes because you're casting a fishing rod.
Okay, there we go. That's at least
like at least it has surf. I guess that would make sort of sense for that type of area it would be in the water.
Honestly, depending. So this is one of those Pokemon that has different forms. It's not like different entries on the decks. You know, some Pokemon it's like, oh, if it's spring you get it looks like this. When it's summer, like there's some Pokemon that just have a different look to them, different forms, but it's same Pokemon number. Depending on which form you see of this one, you might think if you see the normal type form that it looks like a ghost. That might be like a ghost with boobs is kind of what it looks like. It looks like a little ghost with boobs in its normal type form, but this actually is a weather-based Pokemon. That's so like a weather cast.
Oh, like a forecast.
Yeah, like a forecast. And there's the sunny form, a rainy form, and a snow form.
Oh yes, this thing. Yes.
And that is cool, I think, just because of the fact that you can get there's a water, a fire, and an ice type.
Hold on.
Out of that.
This looks like a sperm with boobs.
Oh, it does look a little like a sperm. I mean, it looks a little bit like a Casper in the normal type.
It's very sexual, regardless of how you look at it.
Yes.
It could be testicles with a little sperm.
It does have that sort of like sex party mask on.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
like,
yes, it does. Like,
this
yes,
thing's a sperm with boobs. This thing is all sex right
now.
Oh,
we
God.
are all of the forms are also this number, right? So we can talk about the forms.
Yeah. Yes.
Good,
these are all the same Pokemon.
Great designs.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, the boobs
forms.
are weird.
On the
Is it supposed to be a raindrop with a cloud underneath? Is that what they're trying to go for?
I believe that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Because they went with a sperm with boobs.
I think they were trying to make it look kind of like a little cloud.
Rainy form is what you're describing, Dan, is a raindrop. With,
yeah.
Okay,
like,
but there's others like
boobs. Sunny form, it looks more like clouds because it's white, and then snowy form, it kind of loses the boob.
I mean, it's
Design
real
a little bit.
There's something about if you just cut the head of it off, it will look better, right? But there's something about the tits they gave it that
looks.
It's really really strange design.
The sunny form looks crazy though. That's kind of fun. It looks like a sun with boobs.
It does. It does look like a sun. With
it has.
boobs.
Let's just agree it has boobs, no matter what form it's in.
Yeah, pretty much. It's funny because I think if you showed me just the normal type of this Pokemon, right, and it's not in a different form of it, which is based on like if you know what the weather is, I would have guessed it was a ghost type. If you just showed me the normal type, I would guess that looks like just a little ghost.
When you had said Castform, and I was really struggling to remember which one this was, I thought, is it a ghost?
Yeah.
Oh, that looks cool as hell. Actually, it looks like a little ice cream cone. Almost.
Yes. It's the precursor to Vanillux.
The forms are all great. I think it's a cool idea. They obviously expand. This is when they start getting a little freaky, you know, with like. Not just having it be like, cool, there's a Pokemon at this number. This is when we start in Gen 3 getting a little bit like, oh, they have alternate, form.
Yes.
Because you'd have things like the evolutions, but they were all separate individual Pokemon.
Right.
Now,
and that's because those are actual evolutions.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's probably what the big difference there is. Now this is very common. I mean, in the new game, there's a bunch of Pokemon that I'm like, oh, should I catch this one? It's a different form. And I'm like, it's the same thing. I don't need it.
Yeah, there's like what was he saying? There's this. I don't think it's necessarily a new Pokemon, but there's this Pokemon called Squawkabilly.
Yep.
And it has like different coloring based on its gender. And I was like, oh, do I catch the other color?
And Toxtricity from the previous game, and
the
the Deerlings.
great Pokemon. Deerling as well.
Yep.
Yeah, lots of visual differences with Deerling depending on the gender.
There's a lot of them now that do this, which is great. I think that's cool. It's a good way to just, make the world more interesting. All right, so here's the information on the origin, right? Tuna's not here. So it may be, Castform may be a combination of forecast, prediction of the weather, and transform, or form, referring to its ability to change form depending on the weather. The German and French names reflect this as well. So pretty straightforward on the naming.
Yeah.
The origin, I think this is actually more interesting because it talks
French.
about design.
No.
Castform resembles a living cloud and acts like weather in general, but also may be based on a weather balloon. And now that I think about it, if you remember Twister, if you remember the way that they have the little dials like for wind, and it has the little balls on them and how they spin, that's kind of what the bottom of the Castform looks like. And I think that's where that design element came from, because it says Castform is said to be composed of molecules similar to water. Its shape of a large sphere, 2 similar orbs resemble H2O molecule is another option for that. So it seems like they took this from a couple different places, and they were like, all right, we're going to do basically 3 circles, 2 big ones, 1 small one. And that's what Castform is. It's cool. It unfortunately doesn't have an evolution as far as I'm aware, correct? Yes, no, it has no evolution. And I think that's a shame, because this seems like kind of a what could be a very cool Pokemon if it had an evolution. Just a lot of these single form Pokemon, you just can't use, they're too weak,
Where do you go when you already have 3 types of one main is kind of the problem, I guess, with evolving it.
I mean, they could all just be more intense versions, right? So instead of snowy form, it's like blizzard form,
brighter sun,
heat wave form, hurricane form, and blizzard form. So like just each one could be more amplified. And also, again, we're just spitballing here, right? Like they don't come up. I think most of the time they don't come up with these in like 30 seconds. But you never know. You never know.
I have a feeling a large chunk of them they do come up with in 30 seconds.
Some of them they have to come up with pretty quick. Yeah, some of them. I mean, so last week we were talking about the math of how many Pokemon come out per episode versus so like how many weeks we do the podcast versus how many new Pokemon come out every 3 years. Like how long will it take us to catch up? We were just updating that based on the new Pokemon that are coming out. It's like 26 years away now. I thought about that and I'm like, wow, they actually have to come up with and design and everything more than one Pokemon every week between releases. Like that is not a lot of time. Yeah, I mean, there's entire teams dedicated to it, of course.
It is a lot of time though, because
but they put a lot of research.
You're not spending one day doing one Pokemon.
Of course not. But there's like a lot of research when you look at these. It's like, oh, it's based on this, and they came up with this, and they looked into like this one because it's based around Spain. They looked into this folklore, and they took this idea from it and design. It's like there's a lot of time that goes into.
Here's the thing. I don't think they go into it. I don't think they go into it planning. Okay, today we got to come up with a Pokemon. Here we go. Or come up with 10 Pokemon. I think there's like they walk around their little notebooks. They're like, oh, that could be cool. Like they just see something out in the world, and they're like, oh, maybe that'd be cool. And they write down like probably have notebooks of like hundreds of ideas.
Yes, of course.
Pick from those lists.
Of course, so, but when it comes to like the research and stuff involved, either way, because
I just think it's natural life research. I just think it's life research that like someone happens to know it off the top of their head, and then they throw it in there, and then and that's based on this lore I already knew.
Yeah, but the design directors between games change often, and they're the ones who actually come up with the Pokemon. Like there's a handful of people who do it. So it's like if they're coming up with 112 Pokemon.
Just came up with a Pokemon. It's based on the human hand.
Do we have one of those yet?
I don't think so. It evolves into a hand tracing of a turkey.
It would just be like Master Hand.
Amazing.
Oh, that would be pretty good. That would be that's the autumn version.
It's called Freeform.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. I got nothing else to say about this. Anyone last words on our little boob boy?
No.
All right. See you later, boob boy. Dan, We haven't seen you in a minute. I know I was asking you a little bit about what you've been up to before we started recording. I didn't want to ask too much just because you haven't been here. How have you been? How was your holiday? How was work? What's going on?
Holiday was fine. I got home yesterday from the West Coast on a red-eye flight. I got home around 9 a.m. and then I took a nap until like 2:30.
For people listening to the podcast later, we're recording this on Black Friday, so we're recording it after Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So yesterday was Thanksgiving, so I got home on Thanksgiving morning. I was on the West Coast for about 8 days. A few days in Seattle. I saw Wolf's Lore out there. He came and hung out.
Wolf's Lore in the chat right now.
How is he?
Yeah. What's up, Wolf? Wolf's Lore was cool.
We had
a good time. Went to was it some random bar was the name of the bar.
That's even cooler.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they went the way. There's two ways you can go when you name a bar some random bar.
Mm-hmm.
You can go and like do all sorts of random shit, or it can just look like it could be any fucking bar because it's so boring. And they went with the second option. So it was just a fucking normal looking bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I like that. I like a chill
awesome
dive
in
bar.
General. Yeah. We were staying right near the water where they have the I don't know what they call it really, but they have the Ferris wheel there.
The wharf
on the pier.
Yeah, the pier. Okay, gotcha.
So
that's like prime location.
There. It was like warm enough the day I hung out with Wolf where he met us up. We were already outside drinking at some brewery that had a good view out on the water.
Did it snow or rain while you were there?
No, it was uneventful, which I guess is good.
Okay.
That is good.
I've only been there once. I went a couple years ago to visit our friend Reese Tom, who worked at Apple with us. And when I went, it was also Thanksgiving. It was like 5 or 6 years ago, and it was snowing when I was there. It was snowing and raining the whole time I was there. So we went to that fisherman thing, but it wasn't like nice to be outside. So that actually sounds awesome because Seattle seems super cool, but we didn't explore a ton of it because it was crap out.
Yeah, we the one time I've been, I think I probably mentioned this on the pod, but the one time we went, we had like perfect weather, like mid-70s, sunny all the time, and I was like, this is the greatest city on the planet. What the fuck? And everyone was like, you have literally come during like a string of like lucky days that never happen.
That's what I was told too.
It is like outside of these 5 days, it is miserable weather all the time. So, but it's a fantastic city. I would love to get back there again at some point, but it's just kind of like so tucked away in the corner of the country that it's like, you go to California, you go to LA, like there's a lot you know to see and do. Like if you want to also like make a trip to San Francisco.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you where I went. I went near these places.
There you go. Go ahead.
Did you go on the Space Needle thing?
No. Okay. We weren't staying near it, and it actually like you have to pay a premium to just get up there before you pay for any food at the restaurant. And
yeah, that's why I didn't end up doing it for the exact same reason. So I was curious if you made the same decision.
I'm good. And then let's see. After that, spent a day in San Jose, which isn't much of a city to hang out in. It feels like a mall. That whole friggin' city. It's about like 50, 60 miles south of San Francisco. I'd say about.
Yeah, it's almost like a suburb of like the way that people from San Fran talk about San Jose is like the little kind of like town outside of San Francisco.
So we stayed there. I mean, we had outdoor drink. Like it was nicer there. It was like 65, 70 degrees. Hung outside, had some margaritas, but I wouldn't recommend visiting there. If you're planning a vacation, I would just skip it.
Wow.
It's a mall. I mean, you can go to the mall anywhere, man.
I get that.
And then ended up in LA, staying in Santa Monica near the pier for a couple days, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, I would have come see you, but I was away.
I know you were busy. We had this discussion before I went even on the trip. You were going to be around at the same time, so it was fine. But basically hung out on the beach and watched football one day. Like Big Dean's was the place we stayed most of the time and drank at. And then went into the town area where they have other malls and expensive restaurants. We didn't spend much time downtown till day of, so
sure.
It was mainly on the outskirts near Santa Monica, which is honestly probably nicer than dealing with downtown LA traffic.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, I guess because what did you have, like a truck or something with you? You guys had to like haul?
No, but like just taking like Ubers to restaurants took like 5 minutes instead of a half hour type thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you were staying
And
downtown, then you would just walk. You wouldn't.
We walked a lot anyway. Also, like I took an Uber into town and was like, because we wanted to watch the USA Wales game, and everyone was like, we could have walked, and I was like, we were leaving at like at local time. It was 11 o'clock game, so we left at like 10:50. I was like, we're not gonna make it there if we walk. It'll be like 25 minutes away. So we were right next to Danny Trejo's Tacos.
Oh yeah, Trejo's Tacos. He's got his donuts, his coffee. Trejo's all over the city, man.
I think I've had his I think I had his tacos. Not too bad.
Yeah, they're
good.
I was thinking about
solid lunch during.
Hard to get bad tacos in LA. It's kind of like hard to get bad pizza.
Yeah, we went to watch the game at Britannia, which is right next to Danny Trejo's Tacos.
Little Mexico in LA, the tacos there, like.
Well, yeah, the tacos.
You can't get anything else like that. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, tacos in LA are the pizza of New York. Is basically how that works. We have very good Asian and Mexican food. Our Italian food is crap.
It makes sense. You're closer to Asia than you are Italy.
Yes.
And we're closer to Italy than we are Asia.
Yes. That's true.
Maps.
I mean, LA doesn't have a Little Italy. Like it's one of the few cities that don't.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
There's no little. So there was once a Little Italy, and it's like one of those communities that. So this was when LA had a Little Italy. It was so long ago that like Italian people were still like very much on the outs with people, and it was like one of those. Hey, we're gonna push you out of the city, and the city's gonna like build.
Right.
We're gonna build like a highway through
the
here.
Traditional way in which like when you have like a Little Italy or Little China or whatever, like it is, or Chinatown, like it is like, okay, we're gonna keep all the fucking Chinese people over here and all the Italians.
It's unbelievable how they do. It's
city planning.
Yeah. So the city planners kind of destroyed it, and then it never came back. That was it. That was because the population just there aren't a lot of Italian people here. That's just kind of how it goes. So it makes sense. Well, that's awesome. That's great. I'm glad you had a good time. I mean, you're traveling, working fucking nonstop.
I'll be heading out west again.
Where are you going to be next time?
Colorado and Vegas.
Oh,
in like a week or two. Yeah.
Ooh, when are you going to be in Vegas?
I can find the date later. I'm not sure exactly offhand. Early December at some point.
Maybe I'll come out. Go throw some dice. It's just
it'd be cheaper
drive.
to just throw them in the street.
Oh, my LA friends are always in fucking Vegas, man, or at least they were.
I have a lot. John Murphy from the show. John Murphy loves Vegas. Loves going to Vegas.
Interesting. I would never have pegged him for like someone that loves going to Vegas. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's partially because he's such a James Bond guy.
Can we clip with just Tom saying he wouldn't have pegged him?
That would be a good clip. That would be. He loved James Bond, so he likes
fetish?
Get dressed up. All right.
I'm a crumpler. That's interesting. John Murphy we haven't had John Murphy on the pod in a while.
It's been a very long time.
A lot of listeners who are going to be like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Well, I think they've heard me mention him enough at this point.
Yeah,
though.
Sure. Friend of Chris. Friend of Chris.
On UFC.
Friend of Chris, if you have met or seen or heard or anything, you would not have pegged him.
Correct.
For someone that likes to go to Vegas.
Yeah, correct.
And also the other one. I don't think I'd peg him.
No pegs.
Any pegging.
I mean,
I'm
not gonna. I don't want to I'm not gonna kink shame. If someone wants to peg him,
I gotta text him now.
If he wants to be pegged.
I gotta text him and say, "Do you mind if I name this episode? I wouldn't have pegged John Murphy."
I don't think you even need to text him. Fuck it. He's never gonna find out.
You never know. Some people never unsubscribe from podcast feeds, and then like it just pops up
on
their phone.
He
looks just like
he opens up his podcast app. He's like, "Wait, what the fuck?
What the fuck is this?"
Then he'd have to listen to like a half hour in to figure out what the fuck's going on.
That would be so good.
That's the brilliant thing about this podcast. It is such a melting pot of commentary that it's just like you can't peg it.
Yeah. He wouldn't expect, of course, also that like you would be the one saying
right that I would be the one to say I would never have pegged John Murphy.
Amazing.
We have these posters in Philly, and I think I'm pretty sure it's a like a diamond sale, like a ring thing, but you would drive along the highway 95, like going into Philly, coming out of Philly, and it just says "I hate Steven Zinger" is all it says on the billboard.
Okay,
and you go and there's a link that says "I hate StevenZinger.com."
That's awesome.
And it's like an infamous kind of billboard, and I think, and like series of billboards. They have billboard, like literally, you go to Philadelphia, you will see if you drive on 95.
Like how long has this been around?
Forever.
Oh, I don't remember ever seeing it when I lived there.
Jewelry. Okay.
Yeah, it's a jewelry thing. It's a jewelry thing, but it's one of those things that when you drive by, you're like, what the fuck? I hate Steven Zinger. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's selling. I think it's meant to be like, by the Steven Zinger's your ex, and you're buying the ring.
I say, got it.
You're buying the ring for the non Steven Zinger in your life, right? He's the shitty ex you almost got married to, or whatever.
No,
so I don't really know the details of it.
I know the story now. I went to
Go
the
ahead,
website.
Dan.
It's right on the cover. So basically, he got engaged with a ring. He got one 20 years later, and then they got pregnant with a baby. And basically, they were up all night changing diapers, and she's like, "I hate Steven Zinger now." That's it. There's no fun part of the story. It's very stupid.
Okay,
that's what it comes from.
Yeah, I figued it was, but now we need an LA.
Especially when you were like, the way you were saying it, I'm like, well, men traditionally like aren't the ones getting the engagement ring.
Again, logically, hadn't really thought it through too much. I just knew
also,
that it was an
Steven
engagement site. Singer.
Yeah.
So what we need now is a billboard that says, I would never have pegged John Murphy.
Oh, okay.
And the link I would never have pegged johnmurphy.com goes to our podcast feed.
No, it goes to my Amazon affiliate link for corkboards. That would be good.
Anyway, there we go.
People make so much money off of those fucking Amazon affiliate links.
Oh,
TikTok, anytime you're on TikTok
64,
and someone's got,
today,
I mean, he's the king.
Yeah.
I'll never forgive him for firing me.
Off of all of the...
what a world we live in.
I bought so many Blu-rays today.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Let's tell us about them. Which ones?
Oh, okay. Here we go. I bought, because I didn't have all three of them. I only had 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I only had 1 and 2 on regular Blu-ray, and the 4K collection was $20.
Fast and Furious?
John Wick's 1 through 3.
Cool.
Now I don't own Chapter 3, which is like, how did that not happen?
Cool.
Let me see. I've been getting Criterion stuff because, like I said, I mentioned before, a ton of old movies I haven't seen that I want to. What do we got here? Deep Cover, a movie from the early 90s with Lawrence Fishburne, and it's a film noir.
Funnily enough, I was going to ask if you got like The Matrix. The new one.
I own all of those. Yeah. So it's called Deep Cover. It's a Lawrence Fishburne film, starring also Jeff Goldblum is in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a noir detective film. Looked great.
Cool.
I got the Batman because I don't own that. It's a great film. I have tomorrow arriving. One of my favorite films of all time, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles on 4K.
Oh, great movie. Now,
here's the thing. You would say, Tom, why do you feel like that you need to own Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in 4K? You have it on iTunes, purchase digital. That's a movie that you don't need a high resolution for.
I wouldn't say that because I'm not a creep and I don't like stalk I haven't hacked your account. I don't look through your digital library.
Sure.
iTunes.
Regardless, the 4K release, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
They had the original cut of the movie is like almost 4 hours long. And it's already a long film. It's a 2-hour film. It's a long film. And if you've never seen it, it's literally one of the funniest.
I wouldn't call a 2-hour movie a long movie, but okay.
But for a comedy in the 80s, long film.
Okay.
It was originally a 4-hour cut. Turns out there is 75 minutes of footage on this 4K release that is just additional shit that they shot.
That's awesome.
John Hughes apparently when Steve Martin, because I went down a rabbit hole of learning about the production of this film after I read this. When they were shooting everything, Steve Martin was like, "So what do you think you're going to cut from the final release?" And John Hughes was like, "Cut." Like, I'm putting this all out there. There is. I've seen.
It was originally going to be it was a trilogy. It was planes, then it was trains,
and then trains.
They were all going to be like an hour, 20 minutes.
I love that. Well, there is enough footage on this additional release to basically to do a separate film. So I'm very excited for that. Sicario, never seen it.
Oh, it's a good movie.
Never seen it. I've heard great things. I got The Northman for $10.
Okay.
The new film with Alexander Skarsgård, great movie and a visual delight for fans of cinema. Time Bandits.
Okay.
From
the original
Terry Gilliam.
Sure.
Which again, a film I've never seen. I got some anime stuff.
All right.
I got Berserk. I got Berserk, the 90s anime, complete thing, which I think is just like the first arc of that story, which I've read.
Yeah, it's still going on.
It's also the manga is still going on, yes. And then I got a bunch of Samurai Jack, the complete collection, for $20.
That's great.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's so good.
You've never seen it. You bought the complete collection.
Right. For $20, like, and people like love it. I was like, and it's not Tarkovsky.
Is it not available anywhere?
No, it is. Jenny Tartakovsky.
Oh, his last name is Tarkovsky, but it's not like
Tartakovsky. Jenny Tartakovsky.
Tartakovsky, right? As opposed to the like birth of cinema Russian filmmaker Tarkovsky. Sure. But anyway, yes, I have never seen it, but it was $20, and Wario 64.
Hey, you weren't kidding. You bought a shitload of Blu-rays.
I did. I literally bought a shitload. Time Bandits, The Northman. Yeah. Anyway, so I spent a little bit of, but everything that I just said came in at like under $100.
Wow.
I feel like a lot of the movies you listed, when Chris and I, when we were growing up, I feel like they used to play nonstop on some of the like Turner networks. Like you'd see like
Turner
USA or
films.
TNT or even like Channel 11 would have like a movie on Saturday mornings. Like half the time it was one of these movies.
Wasn't that WB at the time?
It probably was WB at the time. I couldn't remember what it was called, honestly. Yeah, it wasn't CW yet. I know that.
No, it was WB.
You're probably right. It probably was WB.
Pretty sure. I think Channel 11 was WB. Cool. Dan, you made a face when he said the Batman.
Oh no, that's when I started realizing that all of these movies he was listing were like the ones that we used to have on the TV constantly.
Oh, okay.
Kids. That's what that face was.
Not 90, 89.
No. He was just reacting to the stuff you said previous to it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Nah, he meant the new one.
It wasn't related to that person. Yeah. But like when you said like Planes, Trains, Automobiles, I was like, yep, that's no one.
Oh, I love that movie so much. I cannot wait to watch the stuff that they cut.
You're gonna watch it. It's gonna be crap.
I watched one clip from it, and it's John Candy. Like he's like smoking in one hand and eating a chili dog in the other. It's in the airport scene, at the very beginning of the film. And he like dropped a bit of chili, like rolls off the hot dog, and he like is trying to like flick it into the trash can. And I was laughing my ass off. I cannot wait.
That's great. That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, well, as you can see, I'm not home. The original plan was for me to be at my parents this weekend, but we're not. Zuko seems like he has kennel cough, although the moment after we took him to the vet, he started being perfectly fine.
Maybe Zuko isn't like your parents.
Well, that's what he was like. He didn't want to travel and all this stuff, and so he had a cough for a few days, and the doctor was like, it's best to not let him near other dogs, and my sister has a dog, so we decided not to go. So we're home. Oh, we're not at my parents' house. We're in our apartment. We had a nice sushi Thanksgiving. That was our Thanksgiving.
Turkey roll?
No, it didn't have any turkey roll. I'm sure that they might have.
You could make it. Why not? I don't know if it counts.
We
as
do
sushi,
have
but you can
leftover.
make it.
I'll tell you this: we have a ton of leftover sushi. Sorry, we have a ton of turkey still left over from our Friendsgiving, which happened last Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, you had a huge ass Friendsgiving, so
yeah,
like, you're
that was
set.
We had our turkey.
Yeah,
and I tell you this: I've never made a turkey before, but apparently this turkey changed people's lives.
There you go.
Brooke's sister, her boyfriend, apparently they were on the phone yesterday, her sister and she's like, oh my God, she was like, my boyfriend won't shut up about the turkey. And like how good it was. And I was like, great, awesome. So no, that was a lot of fun. I had my fill of Thanksgiving already. So it wasn't too much of an upsetting thing. But it's funny because, you know, Chris, as I'm sure you'll talk about, you played a ton of Pokemon.
Oh,
and
yeah.
My whole plan was I'm going to play as much Ragnarok before I go to my parents because I'll take my Switch with me and that will be the majority of my Pokemoning. And so I have not made it as far in, but you are very, very high on the game, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts outside of just text messages.
Yeah. Well, so I had my birthday last week, so I went up to see my brother because my mom was there as well, and my niece, and we all have our birthday one day apart. So I did like a 6-hour turnaround drive, like to basically up towards SF and then back, like a couple days apart. I was telling Dan before the show, we're gonna go to the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, but we're not going this week for my birthday. We're gonna wait a little bit because it's like one of the top busiest weeks of the year to go. So we just chilled. I should have probably like just put my head down into God of War and played it because I was home all week, and I'm going to be going to New York next week. So it's like
lots of opportunity to bring a Switch.
It's like, I should just play Pokemon while I'm away next week and play. But what happened was because I was, up away, I brought my Switch with me and I started playing Pokemon. I got addicted. Two things. It's not a good looking game, and there are parts of it that look ugly, and it also is a game that doesn't have great performance, and there are moments where it has bad performance and actual like glitches, although I haven't had any like game breaking glitches and crashes, although I know some people have had that's not like the widespread issue. It's mostly that there's like a lot of frame dips. Sometimes it gets like really slow or laggy, and like people think it looks hideous. What I would say about that is, and I was on that boat because the way people were previewing it, Tom, last week on the podcast, I was like, this is a fucking joke. It shouldn't look like this, shouldn't run like this, like fuck this, fuck that. Then you start playing it and very quickly realize there are sections of this game that actually also look very good and run great. And most of the time it's somewhere in between where it doesn't run great and it doesn't look great, but it's also fine. Like, it's fine. It doesn't really feel, most of the time, it doesn't really feel like it runs much worse than Sword or Shield, and that game had plenty of hitches and slowdowns and like lower frame rate areas, especially in the wild area. There are plenty of parts of it where the environment looks fantastic and looks good, but there are a lot of parts of it that there are plenty of parts of it that do. But so I've noticed a thing. Everywhere that's like on the outer edge of the map feels like a lot better, both in performance and visuals. And it also depends on like the lighting. Like if you have like the basic day lighting, everything looks really flat and ugly. And when you get like the more interesting lighting and shadows, the game suddenly looks a lot better.
There was this moment I was in a Pokemon battle, and it was like the dead of night. It was like in game happening, and there was this my Pokemon was doing, it's sitting there like bobbing like back and forth, and it was like kind of distracting because I realized that the moonlight was like actually like refracting and coming through, and as it was bobbing, it kept like the screen kind of kept flashing, so I had to like, thank God you can like move the camera angle around so you can change the angle, because it was a little bit like it was simultaneously annoying, but at the same time I realized like, oh, there's like some stuff happening here like with the lighting that is actually like a glimpse of what could be.
Yes,
I guess.
I mean, that's I think the biggest problem is everyone knows what they want the game to be, and there's moments in it where I'm like, oh shit, this is what if the whole game looked like this area, this game would look great, and if it all ran like this area, but it is a lot of like, there's very small amounts of it that are I think really good. There's, I think, a little bit more that look really bad or run really poorly. But I think most of it is kind of in the middle of like, oh, it gets a little framey when I get around a lot of Pokemon, or like, oh, this area doesn't look great, but like that mountain's really cool, and like some of this looks nice, and there's a lot of foliage here.
We came to the same conclusion when we were texting about it, of like, they should just go for the stop motion look, and then it will run great.
Yes, yeah, like the animations,
like
and
just
stuff.
Commit to it. Because that's I think that for me is the thing, is like the disparity between, you know, my character model runs for the most part really well and looks great, and the Pokemon models look great.
Yep.
But it's when it's like there's stuff that looks great in the immediate vicinity, and then 6 feet away from that, it's like everything's moving at half the speed. Blocks of color are just like flat blocks of color. So like maybe just commit to a less realistic art style.
This is what I mean, is like this game clearly just needed more time. They needed, I mean, obviously, like, look, this development team just never went through the growing pains of like what every other development team did when like they moved to like the 360, and they're like, oh, we're trying an open world game for the first time. Oh, we're doing it. And they didn't bring in teams. They didn't outsource to another team who's like very good at that stuff. And they should have and could have done those things, but they didn't. So it's not necessarily an excuse. However, the game most of the time runs perfectly fine. It doesn't run great, but it runs perfectly fine, and it looks fine. But it's not good, it's not great, but it's also not busted and broken nearly in the way that people want to present it is online, because quite frankly, once that became a meme, everyone just went out of their way to try and find clips and glitches, because what do you think is going to get better numbers on TikTok? Like, what's going to get better numbers on Twitter and on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I've been enjoying those though. Like, they're fun to watch. Like,
they are fun to watch.
I was watching one battle. Like the Pokemon are battling, this little girl is just in the background, not involved. She just walks right through, and like perfectly timed for like an attack.
But I like that though. I like the fact that it occurs in a world. You know, you see while you're battling Pokemon, you see like other Pokemon still like going about their business. But there was like one Pokemon battle.
Would they just go about their business? Wouldn't they be like, there's a fight going on, I might like just watch that?
But the Pokemon usually do. The Pokemon usually back away when you start a fight, but they'll still stay around it and watch the, you know.
Yeah, there's been Pokemon that like, I remember one.
I mean, this is what everyone wanted, right? You wanted the battles to happen where you are. You didn't want to be instanced into another thing. And now that it does, people are mad because they're like, well, why is this Pokemon over here? It's like, because he was fucking over there when you started fighting.
There was one that annoyed me though, where it was like a mix of like, oh, I'm frustrated at this because like it's kind of getting in the way of the battle, but it is also like, what I like about the game is one thing that they did double down on, I feel, from Arceus, is like the Pokemon have personalities, and they have behaviors based on the Pokemon. Like, certain Pokemon travel in packs, some Pokemon are very solitary. One of the ones that you'll run into is Taurus, who has a Paldean, it's a black Taurus. It's very cool.
Yeah, it is super cool.
They somehow figured out a way to make Taurus one of the coolest Pokemon even cooler, and they made him matte black. And the kind of behavior that it has is it will charge you and start a battle, and that's what had happened.
There's a couple aggressive ass Pokemon.
There was a horde of them, and I was just kind of like trying to mind my own business, and one of them like charged right into me and initiated a battle. But in the middle of the battle, I have the other Taurus in the pack also charging my character. So like sometimes it'll like a Taurus will like be in the middle as we're trying to battle, or like literally on top of me. So I'm like animated in the side of the Taurus. So there is that thing, you know, what someone put online, you know, and as much as I've read things back and forth where it's like Nintendo doesn't put any pressure on Game Freak to put them out in a certain cadence, but at the same time there is also the thing of like, Pokemon is such a huge franchise that there has, you know, the release of the games affects the movies, it affects the TV show, it affects the card game, and vice versa. Like, there always needs to be from a capitalist perspective, a new generation of Pokemon happening every 3 years in order to launch new merch, in order to launch the
There's
other
also
properties
always
and
new
stuff
kids
like that.
looking to play new Pokemon.
Right. So
You know?
there's
always a new generation of kids where this is their first Pokemon game.
That there is just like this, when I was playing, I was like, oh, capitalism once again, the enemy of everything here.
Tom pretends he hates capitalism. Tom
I know.
loves
Today I texted
so
the guys. I was like, I think I like capitalism because I got I got the Target credit card.
Yeah,
and when it was like, 5% back at Target, I was like, I love spending and acquiring capital. So anyway, but you're super far into it, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to get the performance glitch stuff, because that's dominated the conversation, and I think that sucks because it honestly, here's the thing, and this is the important thing. Guess what? The frame rate being kind of hitchy and sometimes laggy doesn't fuck up with the gameplay because it's a turn-based fucking battling game. This isn't like if you were playing Grand Theft Auto or Halo and you were trying to shoot something and the lag affects you. It doesn't affect your gameplay at all in the slightest bit. It doesn't, not even a little bit. So once you get used to it, like once you're playing it for more than an hour, a lot of these things became invisible to me, like I'm not realizing like, oh, this should look better because I'm like, okay, this is what the game looks like. And then when you get to the areas that look awesome, I'm like, this is fucking cool. And I really don't care about like, there's so many goddamn clips of NPCs who are walking around who clip through other things, which you mentioned, Dan. And it's like funny the first or second time, but it's also like, that is like, if people think that this is showing a game is broken, that is the most trivial, like inconsequential problem the game could have. And like, that means you just don't give a shit about the actual game if that's going to be the thing that keeps you from playing it, because not only do you not interact with those people ever, but like they're not even as relevant as sprinkles on a fucking ice cream cone. Like they are the least relevant possible part of this game, and they are probably the most broken thing in it. So like, not a big problem. The gameplay is everything everyone's ever fucking wanted. Like, this is the game that everyone has always talked about. This is the Breath of the Wild Pokemon game. You can catch a Pokemon fucking anywhere. You can go anywhere you want in the game, whenever you want. You can play gym in any order. Now, the gyms don't scale, which I think is unfortunate, but you can go anywhere in the game that you want at any time. There are fucking Pokemon everywhere of every kind. They're so abundant that now it doesn't matter like what Pokemon you have on your team. There isn't necessarily like oh, these are the clear, like everyone's going to have these 4 Pokemon on their team, because there are so many diverse Pokemon who are powerful from the jump that you can get within the first like hour or two, that a lot of people are going to have very different teams. And you might even just prioritize using the new Pokemon because there's so many of them that are powerful and are good. I have never, ever, since I was a kid, fainted in a Pokemon game. Never. It has happened to me twice in this game because they actually made it challenging.
It is more challenging, which is great.
The only reason that you're going to be over leveled in this is if you are like, I'm going to go on every route, I'm going to walk through every path, I'm going to battle every trainer. And guess what? The trainers don't auto battle you. You can walk right up in front of their face. You can run into them with your legendary Pokemon. They're not going to battle you unless you press a button and interact and talk. And so unless you're like, I need to battle every person at every one of these places, you're not going to be over leveled at all. In fact, there are several people, like I just did the last fight I'm going to do before I go do the like Pokemon tournament and the Elite Four and everything. And I only had one. It was a 6-on-6 fight. He knocked out 5 of my 6 Pokemon. My Pokemon were like a level higher than this guy's. So like the battles are really much more intense than they've ever been before.
It's more challenging. You're definitely like having to think strategically about like, am I going to swap this Pokemon out? Like, is this the right move? Like, you do have to think about that more. I will, and I mean, it's something we texted about as well. I will disagree. I don't think it is the final issues aside, technical issues aside. I still don't think this is the fully Breath of the Wild go anywhere Pokemon, as we've discussed, with the fact that there is no leveling, and all that. Like, you cannot
scaling, but level scaling introduces a whole bunch of other problematic elements when it comes to JRPGs or anything that is a level system. That's why most of them don't do it. I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think that should be a prerequisite for a Breath of the Wild style game.
But in Breath of the Wild, you have every, one of the things they talked about, that game, one of the reason why that, from a design perspective, why, I don't know if it was Miyamoto himself or whomever it may have been, but it was someone that worked on Breath of the Wild said, we didn't want to restrict the player in any way. Once they got all 4 abilities to manipulate puzzles and open areas, we wanted to make sure that they could literally go anywhere to the game and do the thing. There was nothing impeding them, and this game doesn't have that. Not only from a level perspective, like, I went to a gym. I took when I first left the main city and the school and everything. I went to the West. I took out what I think is like the easiest gym in the game from a level perspective. And then I looked at the map and I was like, oh, there's a gym in the very southwest corner that is like away from everything else. Let me go tackle that. And I was like, oh, actually, it's very hard to get to because there's water in between and you don't have the ability to cross rivers or anything initially. You have to go beat a Titan in order to do that. And even after I'd done that, it was also like, okay, now actually all these Pokemon, they're in their 40s. So there's like nothing you can really, I didn't have any kind of like leeway to go tackle not only the Pokemon on the trail or the trainers,
but I think that's an inherent issue to a turn-based RPG that has leveling, and I don't think there's any way to overcome that.
I mean, I would be interested to see what level, like how.
I haven't seen any video game overcome that. Would be my.
And the other thing
argument.
is like with all the technical issues that these games have, like. Them trying to implement like a level scaling system sounds like a nightmare.
Sure.
Like probably would end up being like inefficient, but it doesn't have like everyone that plays this game. It wasn't like Breath of the Wild where we were playing and it was literally like, oh, you went and did this. Like I haven't even been there yet. Like oh, that thing you did within the first 10 minutes, I did in the final 100 hours.
Okay. But
everyone is going to have.
Look, you're taking my point out of context because you're comparing it to a very different kind of game, and the things that you're talking about, I don't think are inherently possible in Pokemon.
I mean, you were the one that said this is the Breath of the Wild of Pokemon.
Allow me to finish. You're taking it out of context. You're directly comparing it to a game that is a completely different style of play that is not directly comparable. I was saying it in the thing that everyone wanted, where you can go anywhere and do anything in a Pokemon world. That means that things are going to be different because it's in the context of Pokemon, not in the context of Zelda. And in the context of a JRPG where you have a leveling system where there are no, like, show me one that works great that people point to. People talk about level scaling all the time. And then there's always people that are detractors that say, well, level scaling has problems. And then I've never seen anyone that argument be like this game, and this game, JRPG or RPG that has a leveling system that does it right. And I think that's because inherently it doesn't really work. So inherently, like, you can't just be like, well, you could do this in Zelda. It's like, well, yeah, but Zelda is a puzzle action adventure game. So there are things that mechanically you could do that you could never do in Pokemon. So when I say Breath of the Wild, I'm saying in that it completely reinvigorated the franchise. This game is like, as far as I'm concerned, this is almost a reboot of the franchise. Every single quality of life change in this game is so massive in the way that it works. The fact that now, for the first time ever, there are the equivalent of 18 gyms in the game, because not only are there the 8 gyms, but there's the star track where you are taking on the enemies in the game. And each one of those has a gym style boss that you have to beat. And each one of those is also a type, like the gyms are always a type. Then there's also the Titans, which is the exact same thing. So you're going to go up against one of each of the 18 types in the game, which is something people have asked for a long time. Breeding is completely changed. You can do it anywhere that you want at any time. You can catch Pokemon on the fly very easily. You can battle Pokemon whenever you want. There's no more random battles. You can fight trainers if you want. You don't have to fight against the trainers. The actual stories, like in the game for the first time ever, matter and are consequential and are like interesting. That's never happened in a Pokemon game.
The story so far, and I hear it just gets better.
But then the environment actually does have a bunch of hidden stuff there. I don't know if you found any of them yet, Tom, but there are 10 like points of interest on the map for you to locate. And now as I've been exploring more and more, there are like ruins that you can find. There's also a complete like sub story that's happening that, like, if you're not doing the school, if you're not going to take classes right now and you're playing the game, go back to the school, take your classes. You should absolutely make sure you do the history class, finish your history class, because if you don't, you're going to miss out on a very important part of the game. So there's all these things that are in the game that like I've never really like, other than like, oh, I want a living dex, I've never been compelled to catch all the Pokemon because it was always difficult. It was hard to find them. You didn't know where they were. Like there were so many things. They've gotten rid of all of those barriers. Another thing, Pokemon's always been too easy. First time ever, I'm getting knocked out. I'm having challenges. I have to think about what I'm doing with the Pokemon. What's something that's always been a barrier to that? To like the techniques of the game. If you wanted to play Pokemon as a competitive game, you had to learn like the EV system. There's all this like grinding with breeding that you had to do. They've minimized a lot of that with the items that you get in the game now. They've also made it that you can breed whenever you want. There's no daycare. You can do it. You can get an egg wherever you are at any time. But then the best part about that is you used to, if like you nicknamed your Pokemon, you had to go for a fucking like nickname guy to change it. You can do that on the fly. The other thing you can do on the fly, you can change your moves on the fly at any time. You're like, I don't want to learn this move right now. Forget it. Actually, later on, I want to go back. I could just click on that Pokemon and I don't need to go to a computer. I don't need to go to a Pokemon Center. Where I am at any time, if there's something you want to do, you can do it in the game. And that's always been the biggest problem with these games, right? You've always been, anytime you want to facilitate something in a Pokemon game, you had to go to a Pokemon Center, or you had to go to a Pokemart, or you had to go to the Move Learner, or you had to go. Everything was like locked and siloed in these boxes to keep you from doing anything that was like interesting or more like in depth or advanced. And for the first time ever, they've given you the tools to do all of those things and simplified them and made them forward for people that probably didn't even like fuck with those things because they were either obtuse or hard to find or you didn't even know they were there. So like that's what I'm saying is like when this is the Breath of the Wild Pokemon game is it's the game where you're in an open world. There's 400 Pokemon just fucking roaming free, and you can go catch any of them anytime you want. If you want to go for the ones that are over leveled, it's going to be hard. But Tom, there are places where I didn't think I could get to them, but I was able to traverse my way there just out of like sheer like brute force. I was like, I want to go to that fucking
the backwards
place.
Jumping,
but I did it.
Thing. Yeah.
And I had to. So I did it when I was like level 18. I was like, I want to fucking go here. And I went to a place, I don't think it was the same one as you, but I went to a place I wanted to go up to like where the snowy area was. And there are level 40 Pokemon there. And I was like, I got wrecked twice trying to do that. On the third time, I made it to the top. I got to the peak. I was able to save at that Pokemon Center. So like you're able to get to these places, but sometimes you kind of have to like make your way around to do it. So that's what I'm saying is when I'm saying it's the Breath of the Wild Pokemon game. As far as like if you want Pokemon to suddenly be like this unique experience of like when you have your experiences, everyone's story could be different. I mean, it is in like a order of operation, sure, with Zelda, but like there's still everyone has the same shrines, right? Like it's not like any of the things are unique to anyone's game. So it's just the order in which you do things. I'm sure you could find a way to do that, but I don't think level scaling is going to be the way to do it. I think they probably need to look at like the trainers have different, level scaling. Maybe they need to work on like every area has like low and high Pokemon. There's probably ways around that, but it's probably not as clear and dry as like copy paste Zelda.
No,
I feel like this is
never, I mean, a lot of the, when you talk about, I think a lot of people have obviously a lot of opinions on Pokemon, and at the end of the day, with game development, especially working on the biggest franchise ever, like it's always way more complicated than you
right.
You don't know unless you're making it, like how complicated it can be. And so I think that this game has things for me in it that are significant improvements with the quality of life stuff. One of the things, you talk about moves. The move pool is great where you can, not teach a move and then teach it later, or take moves that you've not taught them. I like the fact that you can do like you hit X and it recommends.
Yep.
Oh, you there's this move, like there's this move you have right now. If this would be the best thing to replace it with, or actually don't teach it. You have a really good move set right now comparative to, I don't know how it's really I don't know how it's computing it. Somehow it always like seems to know what my gut instinct is. Like I always hit that X like recommend, and you like 99% of the time it is what I think I was going to do. Like, I'm not going to teach it. Or...
Yeah, I don't know if they like have something that looks at it, or if they just know, like, someone went through and was like, these are the recommended best order, and depending on what your pool is, that's what it does. That's
they're like, you don't need growl. Like, we all know it. You don't need growl. Get rid tail whip. Get it out of here. Like,
I forget what Pokemon it was, but someone had the move spit up, and the suggested replacement was swallow.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, there's that Swalot Pokemon.
There is Swalot. Yeah, he is in the game as well.
Yeah, Swalot's in there.
Gulpin.
Gulpin.
And
Gulpin's in there.
I traded you one.
Yes, you did.
So I think there's a ton of stuff in here. I think I would say I totally expected the game to have the issues that it has. Sure. I did not expect it to have a lot of the quality of life stuff that is in there, and I think that for the most part it's really good. And yeah, the gameplay is the best it's ever been, and for me, the thing that's surprising is like the story is, you know, especially after Sword and Shield, which was so
bad,
flat. It was one of the worst Pokemon stories, not because it was even bad, it was just like so I didn't care.
It almost wasn't there until the end of the game. I feel like the Sword of the Shield doesn't even show up till like,
and then it tries to like have a big twist at the end where it's like, oh, actually this is what's happening, and I'm like, it doesn't. I didn't have any emotional connection to anything, so like it just completely falls flat. Wolfstar in the chat says, I just want outfits. That is something that is like a little frustrating in the game. Like the customization aspect of it has like is like backwards.
Because you have to wear your school uniform, so like, you can only change what season of your school uniform you have, and
it's the colors can't be changed. So good luck if you got Scarlet, because you got this like really like pumpkin orange.
It's a little half baked. That part is a little half baked. I was a little annoyed when I couldn't change my clothes. However, like, we didn't even mention auto battling. Right, like that's a huge deal.
There's a ton of
that's fight with cars.
You can absolutely. There's an engine car Pokemon in this one. There absolutely is. There's 100%. You will fight with cars, yes. But I was referring to how. And now, Tom, I know you wanted the auto catching, but I really think that it doesn't make sense in a game that prioritizes battling, like Arceus had. I think
I just don't know why you couldn't have both, but that's just my argument.
Because I just think it trivializes the catching of the Pokemon.
I feel like auto battling, like in the same way you can make an argument that auto battling trivializes the battling of the Pokemon. Like these are both quality of life improvements. I don't think there's necessarily a good argument for auto catching. Regardless, though,
no, because from a mechanic standpoint, right? Catching the Pokemon in this is not like, so the battling is important, but you can't auto battle if you're under leveled or you're the wrong type. Your Pokemon is just going to get downed. It's not going to work. So the auto battling is meant to solve the grind. That is what the auto battling is there for. This game doesn't want you to grind, because also if you're grinding in this game, you're going to over level. And if you just want to be over leveled and like blast through the game, then you can. But that's not how you should play this game. So that's why they put the auto battling in. It's like you want to use a different Pokemon because we have 400 for you to choose from. You got to level them up quick. Cool. We can throw in auto battling. Like, we'll also give you the raids that you can do, so you can get like rare candies and like XP ups like really fast, so that you can use any team you want and not have to spend hours trying to get them, you know, up to speed with the rest of your team. So if I have a Pokemon and I'm auto battling it with it, it's because at that point I know this Pokemon can wipe out all of these other guys. But if I'm auto catching, you have auto catching for anything, then like, oh, here's 100 Pokemon that like I don't even need to interact with, and I can just throw Pokeballs at them and catch them. That like trivializes a huge a component of the game, I think. And I think like they understand that you don't want to spend a ton of time knocking every Pokemon's health down to have to catch them every time, which is why as you get more badges, it gets easier to catch Pokemon, and you unlock more balls that make it easier to catch Pokemon. So you'll eventually be at the point where it's like, all right, I'm at over 200 Pokemon caught. I've caught 241 Pokemon at this point. I can buy the quick balls, which in my opinion are the best Pokeball, because you can throw it first. It has like the best catch rate you're going to have if you throw it immediately without battling. But once you catch more, like a lot of Pokemon, and you have the full badge count, it is just easier because the game knows like, hey, we're not going to make you work as hard now to catch the Pokemon. But earlier in the game, when you're still battling and you're leveling up, it's more important for you to like go through and fight the Pokemon, learn what type they are, like interact with them. Because otherwise, like at some point, like if there's auto battling and there's auto catching, like when are we just going to make the shift away from a turn-based game, right? Like that's I think like where you have to go with that next step if you do that, because I think it takes you out of the battle mode too much, because you're not usually fighting a Pokemon in the wild for XP because you get less XP for fighting them. So you're doing it to catch them. So that's why I think auto catching doesn't make sense in a game that isn't based around Pokemon Go like Arceus was, but they have the auto battling to get you through the sludge of like, I need XP. Like I need to level up this Pokemon. Mm-hmm. So that's I think from their like a mechanic standpoint, there's actually a very clever reason as to why it's not there. But you don't see it at first because you enjoyed it in Arceus, and you're a big Pokemon Go guy. So I also see why you would want the auto catching, because you like that style of gameplay.
Well, it's just one of those things where it's like there are Pokemon that I'm just catching simply to have caught them and have them in my decks. And so it's like, but I mean, one of the nice things is, again, there is no like intro exit animation for battles.
Thank God.
The Pokeballs are not in a menu, right? Like they do have that thing that was in Arceus where it's like, cool, the Pokeballs are right there. You press X, you select the Pokeball you want, you can throw it. So at the end of the day, like it isn't like a deal breaker. It's just like, and I understand, I think you make a good point for why it isn't in there. It's just one of those things where it's like, that's one of the few like quality of life improvements that was in Arceus that like isn't present here.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be surprised if both auto battling and auto catching are in Gen 10.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. But
I think you can do it, but I think you have to rethink how you do it, because I think at a certain point you don't want everything to be automated, because then the game loses a lot of its charm. Right.
Unless they have the thing, a simple solution would be like, cool, we're going to add the, and what, I told you like the fact that like, press X when you're in the Pokedex and you can get rewards for every 10 that you've captured.
Yes.
Which is similar a little bit to what Arceus had, where it was like you're leveling up kind of like a collector's level. And if you're playing Marvel Snap, where it's like, each Pokemon has a certain entry, like, battle it with this type, catch it with this ball, catch it during the day. If they I wouldn't mind if they like added that, give me more of an excuse to like catch multiple of the same time, or like catch both genders, catch all the variants of one Pokemon. If they added that back in, that would like maybe solve that problem of like why you wouldn't include it. Will Slore in the chat brings up a question though. And you can join live if you are a supporter of Patreon, patreon.com/unranked podcast. When we record these, you can join us live. Like Wolfslaw, he says, have either of y'all ventured into the co-op? Chris and I did some trading.
Yeah. So
thank you for the Sprigatito and Quaxley.
Okay, so I should mention, I said I was going to pick Fuecoco. I did. Typically in Pokemon games in the past, you could not use any online features until at least like the second or third gym. Sometimes you couldn't do like online trades until the end of the game. Games that had Wonder Trade, it was usually like once you get past a couple gyms. This is the first, at least that as far as I remember.
In the original game, you could trade on the line all you wanted. As long as you had the connector.
You still had to get to a certain point in that game before you could.
Oh, really? You did?
Yeah. You at least I think had to get to the first gym, because you had to go to like a Pokemon Center, right? Like, whereas now you can just do anything anywhere in the game. So I did a surprise trade. I keep calling it Wonder Trade because that's what it used to be called. They changed it to surprise trade. I sat there after I got to the first gym and I realized I could do it immediately. And I surprise traded for, I don't know, maybe like 45 minutes, an hour. I'm not really sure how long it took until I got the other two starters. Because surprise trade, I just put up any fucking Pokemon I want and someone else does too. And then you get one. And there's always people who are like farming these Pokemon and just sending them out to randos. So I knew if I just sat there and just kept trading away whatever I got, and then, until I got the two I wanted, once I got them, then I bred new versions because I'm a freak and I hate that my Pokemon. I am a game freak. I hate when you get a Pokemon from another player and it says, like the original trainer name and it's not yours. So I took those and then I bred my own Pokemon with them. And then I bred a bunch more so I could send them to Matt, to Emily, to Tom, to Reese. to my cousin, to Patrick, who we've had on the show before, Nintendo Card Society.
Did you send one of them to Peg John Murphy?
Yeah, to Peg John Murphy. Oh my god. So I've got those Pokemon now, but Tom and I were gonna play. So I'm playing like Ash Ketchum, so I've got all 3 starters, and I'm still getting bodied by people sometimes. Tom and I were gonna play, but then just timing didn't work out. We do need to try it. I haven't tried it.
I do want to try some of the co-op. That seems to be where some of the biggest issues seem to
that doesn't shock me.
And we were having issues even just trying to trade. It's saying like it kicking us from the trade. Yeah. It kicked Chris off.
This is the one thing where I'm like, I blame this on Nintendo because I have this in every Nintendo fucking game.
Every online experience on any Nintendo game is.
I have no expectation of having a good online experience on a Nintendo console whatsoever. It doesn't matter who made the game. Even Smash Brothers, like the amount of times, like, yeah, we got some good matches in, but now, we had a 4th person join our fight. It's fucking laggy as shit. People are getting dropped. Were you going to use items? Sorry, it's not going to be a good experience for anyone if you're using items. Yeah. It's just, Nintendo's online kind of blows.
I definitely want to give it a go. And hopefully we can get some fun out of it. I'm sure that there'll be moments of that, and hopefully not have too many issues. But no, we have not jumped into the union, and that was the thing. Is like I sent Chris like an invite code. I was like, here's the invite code. And you were like, are you in the trading thing? Like, that's how we have to. I was like, it's separate from the union. So, like, it's a separate, like, you have to go into the Poke Portal versus the thing at the. And I'm just like, and anyway.
They need to make that shit easier. Also, like, at this point, why can't I just send you a Pokemon? Why do we have to do a trade?
Yeah.
Why can't I just be like, hey, I hatched these 3 Pokemon for you. You're my friend on this game. Let me just send Pokemon or items to my friends. That should 100% be a thing in the game. Don't know why it's not.
It should indeed.
But I'm glad I'm saying that instead of like, there's so many. I just can't get over all the quality of life changes. Things I never thought about. Like they just made it so easy to play the game finally. Like I just don't feel like I'm fighting against the game. It's so nice. Also, I will say this, Tom, as far as like go anywhere, do anything, you can Google the correct order of like what to play in this game as far as like gyms and stuff. I think you should, just so you have an idea of like what order you should be doing stuff and tackling stuff in, only because you don't want to end up accidentally making like, oh, well, I'm just doing the gyms right now, because the way they present it, like which path are you going to take is kind of a lie. It's actually all 3 of them are happening concurrently, and they all have like low, mid, and high level battles.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to, I wish the game kind of nudged you more in which direction to go as you're playing, because had I not looked that up, and I didn't do it in the full correct order, I did everything within like 1 or 2 of like
semi.
Yeah. I would have come back and I was like, fuck this Team Star stuff. That's what I thought originally. I was like, fuck this Team Star stuff. Like, I never really care about the villain things. I'll just do that later when I'm like really like, I'll just go to that later
at the end. Yeah.
Had I done that, it would have been so boring for me. It would have been incredibly boring, because I would have been other than the last one, because I would have just been too strong for several of them. And it would have just felt like, oh, I'm just trying to get through this now versus playing it. And if you're playing it along, it's kind of like each one of these feels like a gym that you're going up against, which is like way more compelling than anything Pokemon's done before with that, at least since like the original games. I feel like the first Pokemon game had like one of the best villains in it, with Team Rocket, and had puzzles and things like that. This doesn't do that, but this actually is like a good story. It is the school story, basically, is what.
Yeah, I think from everything that I've seen from it so far, it definitely reads as like, we know that like the least interesting thing in these games, especially recently, is like the villain team.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna like have these like very small kind of like sprinkled experiences through the game, rather than like try to make you care about it. I gotta say, I like the writing though with them, and like I like the writing overall. And actually, that's something that I thought both Arceus and Sword and Shield, even though the story sucked, like the actual like writing and the characters. Arceus surprised me, because I remember playing Arceus and being like, wow, they're like making jokes about, there's like a meta joke about Pokemon at a heart of the lot of the lore, and like stuff like that. And I'm happy to see that in these games as well, from what I've seen so far. Anyway, yeah, Pokemon. I mean, look, we don't need to no matter which side of the aisle we fall on this. 10 million copies in 3 days. It is the biggest success in Nintendo's history, not just Pokemon. I mean, obviously Pokemon. If it's Pokemon's history, it's Nintendo's history because Pokemon is their best-selling franchise. But 10 million copies in 3 days, like, even though, and it's funny because it's the lowest rated Pokemon mainline game on Metacritic, but it just does not matter. This franchise is more alive than ever, and so you're probably already playing it. If you're listening to this now, you're probably already playing. But even if you're not, if you've been on the fence because a lot of places and reviewers had a lot to criticize, and there is a lot to criticize.
Yeah, technically the game, like, honestly, if this game didn't have all these technical issues and it looked nicer, I think this game would be in conversations about Game of the Year.
Oh, absolutely,
like, everywhere.
Absolutely.
Everywhere. This would be.
I'm sure there's some places it is as well.
This would be like you talk about Pokemon. This would be the game people talk about for the next whatever many years. Everything would be like, oh, wait, is this going to be another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Like, it would get talked about like Breath of the Wild. But because it's not, it's probably not going to be till the next one where it feels like that, because it probably put off a lot of people.
We'll see what Gen 10 has in store
in 3 years, in 2025.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about God of War, or should we just move on? Because
I don't really have I don't really have a lot to say. I'm still like making my way through the game. I think it's getting better as it's going. I'm at this point where I just know there's just been some heartbreaking moments. I teared up at a moment that happened the other night. I think that this game is fantastic, but I'm really just taking my time with it. And there's still like a lot to see and do. There was a point though, I was fighting, there are these, what are they called? I think they're called barbarians or gladiators or something. They're not like the Valkyries. I would say that there's, if you played God of War 1 and fought the Valkyries, they're a bit more of a step down from that, but they're still really tough. And there was this fight I was having with one of them, and it was an electric based thing, so it would stun you a lot. And
did you have like a ground based move to use against it, or?
No, I didn't. I didn't have a ground based move. I was actually fighting it with. Well, actually, no, that's a spoiler if you haven't played it. But I was fighting it, and the annoying thing is it would like stun me, and sometimes if like I did an attack whilst it was doing its stunning attack. So after it stuns you, you have to like rapidly press X to get out of the stun before it can come in close for like a big hit. But sometimes I was finding myself like, if I was attacking while it was stunning, the game would force Kratos to finish the attack animation, and then I could, after like a few seconds, then I could start trying to get out of the stun. And which was bullshit. Right, exactly. It was bullshit because, I was like rapidly tapping X, but the game was not allowing me to get out of the stun yet. And like, I literally spent like 2-3 hours like trying to fucking fight this thing. I was like, I know how to beat it. It's just like the timing on the moves is like killing me. And I did eventually do it, but that I was almost about to kill. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst game of the year.
Stop down the difficulty.
Yeah. So anyway, loving that. What's the other one that I'm, Warzone. Good stuff. Warzone 2. It's good to see. Good follow-up. Fun times.
How much space does it take up compared to the first one? About the same?
I mean, it's a big game. I think it's like 60 gigs if you just have Warzone. Like just Warzone is 60 gigs. But if you have like the whole of Modern Warfare and everything, it's 100 something.
Jesus.
Yeah. But Black Friday deals, get the some of these expansion cards and all that. My Xbox asked me really quick. It popped up a notification. It was like, "Oh, your expansion card. Do you plan on using it with multiple systems or just this one?"
Oh, interesting.
And I was like,
"So it's asking if you're going to cheat on it."
Well, I was just like, "What is the?" I was like, "Why?" Like,
well, because if you have a Series S, then you can install your games on the expansion card and you can take it out.
Oh, I understand why I would move that. but why I would do that. But I'm curious as to why the system needed to know whether I would do that. You know what I
Probably
mean?
formatted a different way, because that wasn't a feature that was there originally. So if
Yeah, it
it's a
would
new
probably
feature,
need to compartmentalize on there some stuff for the other system and some stuff for this one.
yeah,
Interesting.
It's kind of like
previously you
Mac
couldn't do that.
PC. It does that sometimes also.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. So, yeah.
Cool. Is there news worth talking about, or should we just jump into mail?
Let's jump into mail.
Yeah. You could send us emails, email@unrankedpodcast.com, or you could go to our questions for the pod. That's in our Discord. There's a link in our show notes. First one. Evan man. Since Thanksgiving is coming up, what is the game that you remember playing as a kid when the family got around and you had all the cousins together?
Mine's so outdated. Like when I was a kid, this must have been like 1997 or something like that. My aunt had like a Game Boy, like the original Game Boy, and the game Tetris was in it, and that was what we were all passing around and playing. Like there wasn't like a better system out yet that was there. We were all my aunt's kids are like 20 years older than me, so it was like from when they were younger. So Tetris technically is the answer to this question for me.
Hell yeah. I mean, Tetris is great. Did you do any board games? I feel like this doesn't have to be exclusively video games.
Not really. No, we just like hung around the TV and ate chips and bullshitted.
Tom?
I mean, I don't really have this experience.
Oh. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be Thanksgiving, I guess. Then.
I mean, we'd play board games and stuff, Monopoly. Yeah, Monopoly. Yeah. And we have a game called Tapple, which actually some neighbors of ours also purchased, and we played at our Friendsgiving. Are you guys aware of Tapple? Do you know what this one is?
No.
Nope. Is it a game where you tap people?
It's categories, so it's a circular, it's like plastic circular disc, and it has letters, like keys, like think of like piano keys all around the outside of it, and you have a category like video games, and then you take turns naming something video game related. And when you say the thing, whatever the letter starts with, you press the key, and now no one can name anything that is that letter. So controller, boom, hit C, and there's a timer in the middle, and so you're just taking turns. And then when someone is out, when someone can't name anything, the timer buzzes. It's the last person to name something. If you go through all the letters, there's a button to like reset, and you just like start naming stuff again. Good. So my parents have had that for forever, and that is a fan favorite.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
we've been playing it here as well. It's a ton of fun. Good to have in the house. Yeah, gaming wise though, nothing particularly. I remember playing the Fantastic. I would switch off, and it was like a Christmas thing when I would go visit a family. My friend, my cousin had a PlayStation, like the original PlayStation, and they had the Fantastic Four video game that was released in the 90s. And
what?
PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
The original PS1. And we would just like I just have very
based
vivid
on the
memories.
Movie at that point? The first one?
No. It was like it's an original game. I have very vivid memories of playing that in Oddworld, whichever one.
Oh my god, Oddworld!
And we would just switch out playing that, and I just remember playing for hours, and that was like when I was like, okay, I need to start becoming a gamer.
Yeah. Well, so then this question probably is this is very much my experience. If Alex was here, he would also agree, because we always both had our big Italian family with our cousins for every holiday. And I mean, I've spent some holidays with Alex, and it was very much the same thing of like playing video games and board games. Also a lot of like Manhunt and Tag, things like that, depending on like not like Christmas, but more like Thanksgiving, you would do that. But I will. So like we would play a lot of board games, video games. There's a lot of like Mario Kart, stuff like that. Started with like Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. And then, it would just evolve from there. It would go up as new games would come out. One really weird thing that's like really crazy in retrospect, and I think is hilarious, is we were like, I don't know how it happened, but at one point either it was like me and my brother got it, or me and my brother and my cousin got it. But we got fake money at one point or another when we were like really young, like very young. And my brother, my like cousins, like we're all around the same age. So like I have an older brother and a cousin who is the same age as him, and there's another cousin that's like same age as me, and one that's like a year below. So we're all roughly, within a few years of each other. And we would play a lot of poker. We loved to play like poker and blackjack and war. And at some point or another, whatever fake money we had became like a form of currency. I'm sure like new fake money was slowly getting injected to it, but we weren't like showing up, bringing the fake money and giving everyone some to play. It was like we'd show up and everyone had their fake money from the last time we got together.
So it was like cigarettes in prison.
And yes, it became really crazy until one year. And I think I was like 11. My cousin, who was like 10, she ran out of fake money that night when we were all playing poker, and she went into her room and she took out real cash. And the next morning, Tom, you're muted. The next morning, little like 10, 11-year-old me, I was saying something, and the parents were already kind of like starting to get fed up with us and the fake money because we were starting to hide our fake money from each other because we didn't like I had duct tape around my box that I stored my fake money in because I didn't want anyone to steal it. But the next morning I said something about how I won $10 the night before. And my parents were like, oh, that's nice, like kind of being annoyed. And I was like, and I pulled it out and they were like, well, wait a second.
That's a real $10 bill.
And that was it. They shut it down. They shut the whole ring got shut down. They took away all the kids' fake money. They were like, this is coming to a stop. This is no more. The gambling ring has been shut down. So we did a lot of illicit gambling as children. That's what we did, I guess. It's very weird. It's very weird in retrospect, but when I was a kid, I thought it was the coolest fucking thing.
I mean, yeah, that would be, especially if you're like, oh my God, some of this is real money.
We valued that fake money as if it was real.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Psych Mike has a great question for us. What float would you add to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? And have you seen the video of the Barney float being killed in 1994? I've not seen that. I wonder if I saw that in the past.
Wasn't that Sonic? Wait, which?
Well, there's been a
Sonic,
couple.
Yeah, there's been a couple. I've definitely seen them.
Had to like pop them.
Is Barney relevant still? Do they even still have a Barney float? I can't imagine.
Probably. Why not? It seems like an easy enough kid show to keep going.
They don't make. I don't think it's still Barney anymore.
Yeah, I don't think they make. Barney had its last episode 12 years ago. So I'm wondering if that still exists.
No, I don't think they have a Barney float. What float?
I mean, everyone loves, of course, like Pikachu got a float, Goku got a float. Yeah, so what float? Grogu got a float. Like what floats are we? You're floating in a float.
So anyway, the background on this is in 1997, the balloon handlers lost control of Barney, and so it basically ends up
1997. This says
getting damn. That's what I said. 1997.
The question said 1994.
Oh yeah, this is 97. It's probably just whatever, but that has to be what they're referencing, and it looks like a shitty float to begin with, honestly.
Wow! Wow! I'm looking at the video right now. These things are so. It's what a funny weird thing to have happened. Like Macy's was like, we're this department store.
Deflated, but the head.
We're gonna start the world's like biggest Thanksgiving parade, and we're gonna have fucking giant balloon floats for it. Apparently, Barney's last appearance was 2005, where he only appeared as a balloon.
R.I.P.
So, what would you bring? You Dan. Macy's called you up. They said, Dan, we need one. You only get one. What's it gonna be? Nothing explicit.
Damn it.
You can give us one explicit, but one real one.
Okay. My explicit one is giant blow up sex doll.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that would be hilarious.
That would be funny.
And then regular, well, like we have like the Sonic one, but now I want to see the original design Sonic from the movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the one from Rescue Rangers.
Yeah, exactly. The one that still remains in Rescue Rangers.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty good. That would be funny.
With the teeth.
I like that. Tom, what would you do?
Do they not have a Millennium Falcon? I feel like it's a really easy.
I feel like it's a really inconvenient design for a balloon float.
I think it would just be ugly, right?
It would just look like a big. Any more inconvenient than any of the other designs?
It's hard to make it skinny when you're passing through city buildings.
Because a lot of these are like taller, or they can lay them down, whereas the Millennium Falcon's just wide and thin. So it would be hard to turn it if it needed to turn, I guess.
Do a B-wing.
That's what I'm saying.
That one's super skinny. The B-wing.
Oh, the B-wing.
There you go.
I mean, you could do Millennium Falcon.
You just put it sideways so you can tell what it is.
My whole thing with a lot of the Star Wars ships, and it's part of why, like, as much as I love the idea of having one as a Lego, is I feel like they always just look like a big chunk of gray plastic, and it's a little like, I think they're really cool, but it's kind of uninteresting. I think like the Star Destroyer that has like the dark gray and kind of blue is probably the best one to get, because also like that one actually has like the way it's built probably looks best. Millennium Falcon, that's interesting. Star
Dude,
Wars.
if they built a Star Destroyer that was like to scale and was like 5 blocks long, that would be amazing. That would be so
that would be
sick.
very cool. That would
if
be
you didn't know what was going on and like the shadow passed over, you'd be like, what the
It's a little hard for me to think of like the one thing I'd want, because I'm like, oh, well, they already have Star Wars, they have Pokemon, they have anime, so it's already got like a bunch of my hits.
Yeah, I mean, they have a Power Rangers float. Like, I can't,
yeah, like that's default. Cool. So I guess I would want, just because it's me and because like it's a stupid answer, I'll say this: I would want the Smoke Monster from Lost. I just want to try.
Amazing, incredible.
How about this? It's specific only to this episode, but just a float of John Murphy getting pegged.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Or John Locke, just a float of John. It's just Terry O'Quinn in his outfit from Lost. It's just a man. It's nothing. It's just a man. It's Walter White. He's got he's got his like suit on. That would be funny. All right, we got one more of these bad boys. What game is from Narcus? What game do you regret not finishing?
Oh, so many.
I mean, so I finished it now, but I regret not finishing God of War when I was first playing it, because it basically made me take a break and not play the new one, and I could have already been playing or possibly beaten the new one. What? I don't know. Horizon Forbidden West, the game I started and didn't finish.
That's there. I mean, there are so many.
Yeah, for me, Breath of the Wild, because I never finished it because I was streaming it.
Oh, that's
right. I had
this
thing where my computer stopped working, and then I had to get like the thing replaced, and like 5 months later, I was like, and now I'm out of it.
The thing about Breath of the Wild, though, is like, having beaten the story, is that like it's so inconsequential to the like the experience is the exploration and and seeing the shrines. Like the story itself, like finishing it doesn't feel necessarily like a massive accomplishment. I'm
how dare you downplay my regrets?
I mean, look, if you want to regret it, you can regret it, but oh God, there's so many. I mean, like, I never finish an Assassin's Creed anymore. I haven't done that in years, and that always bums me out. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I never beat Halo 5.
So many.
Oh no, I did, but I didn't beat it for a very long time.
I'm so paralyzed by
that's gonna be fun.
I'm so paralyzed.
Watching FIFA?
No, I'm watching.
Oh, it's the middle of
football. I'm watching college football
like
right
3
now.
a.m.
And,
guitar right now.
This team's trying to come back. Arizona State trying to come back in Arizona, and they threw up a late hit flag, and then somehow Arizona State comes out of nowhere on the screen and just levels both the ref and an Arizona player. So now it's just going to be the 15 yards back the other way. So that's when I reacted. And he's probably
I would say from this year, Horizon is the one.
Yeah,
it's so annoying because I think that game's gameplay is so it feels so clunky, and I kind of despise playing it at times because of it, but the story and world is so cool, and that there's so much to love about it and I had the exact same issue with the first one. I did not finish the first Horizon for years.
It's a game whose aesthetic is unbelievable.
It's
like the opposite problem of Pokemon.
Yeah,
it's the opposite problem of the new Pokemon. The gameplay is not good, but aesthetically and the performance is fucking crisp.
Yeah, from a technical, like, it's such an impressive game. But the combat just feels like how you interact with, picking weapons and shoot, like it's all so problematic, and they really didn't feel I feel like there are unlike in Pokemon where they made massive quality of life improvements to previous entries. This one got such people in reviews who kept telling me like, oh yeah, they fixed this issue with the first. I'm like, no, they fucking didn't. This game is still like, it's not fun to like traverse this gorgeous open world. Like that feels terrible. Riding around feels terrible. If you can even get a mount, like, because you have to like you have to find a robot, turn it over to your side, and pray it doesn't get destroyed, or you don't run far enough away from it that it doesn't spawn anymore. That fucking like, just let me whistle and have a mount. Like, it's so stupid. And then like, fighting the big dinosaurs is cool and stuff, but going into the radial menu to like switch out weapons and like how to
this is why I'm excited about the prospect of it having a TV show on HBO, which who knows now because Warner, but Warner Discovery.
So I think it's a Netflix thing. The
is
TV
it?
show? Yeah,
okay.
I think you're conflating it with Last of Us.
Well, I'm not conflating it with Last of Us. I just assume that because Sony was already working with HBO.
No, I think the Horizon thing is a Netflix one.
Good, because then it'll get made HBO. At least.
But the Horizon show is reportedly like the set in present day, and like how we got to. It's not set in the Horizon times. It's like set at the end of the world.
That's not what I want.
So it's a far-flung prequel, doesn't focus Aloy or any of the modern stuff with the dinosaurs. It's all the like, anyway.
I have a good answer for this now, which is if you had, I mean, I don't necessarily feel this way at the moment, but if you had asked me in the spring, I would have for sure said Elden Ring. At the time I would have been like, oh, I wish I had beaten Elden Ring, but the truth is, now the farther I got away from it, the more I realized I just don't really like this kind of game. It's too long. I'm not going to play it. Like, and now that I've done it, now that I've done one of these Souls-like games, so like, it's just not for me. So like, I don't necessarily regret not beating it now. At the time, I really was like, oh, I just want to do this. I haven't done any of these, so I've tried it. But now that I tried it, I'm like, those games just aren't for me.
It also has big Breath of the Wild energy of like the gameplay and the exploration is the meat of it. And once you've had your fill of that, I haven't finished.
I loved the exploration, the gameplay. I think it's fine. I think it's just there's so many things that are obtuse about it that like the gameplay couldn't overcome the obtuseness of the rest of the game for me, especially when you throw in the difficulty.
But I feel like it's not, the reason I feel sad that I haven't beat a game or whatever is more like I want to see its story to completion.
Right. Again, that game's story is like whatever.
Elden Ring, like there is no. I mean, I don't want to get into a whole debate about whether Elden Ring has good narrative or not, but it is not for me the draw of the game.
Right.
And so, like, what I always think like, oh, I should go back and like beat Elden Ring, but I'm like, I only want to jump into it I sometimes I get a hankering for playing a Souls-like, right? Like I want to like play that kind of game, which is currently kind of being fulfilled by God of War, even though they play very differently. It does have, there is a difficulty to it. And there you go. There's the chart.
There's obtuse games versus acute games.
If you want to see this amazing chart that Dan has made.
What would be good on that, Tom, is you could put Elden Ring on the left and then Tunic on the right and be like, which game are you playing this spring? And it's also because it's a cute game.
Yeah.
So
it's very good.
Which is part of why I stopped playing Elden Ring, because Tunic came out and I've been looking forward to that. And that game fucking blew
Chris,
me
I think
away.
we can honestly say you love a cute game more than you would love an obtuse game.
That is absolutely true. There's no lie detected.
And if the angle of the game is below 90, Chris will love the game. If it's above 90, he's not going to like it.
I don't like a Peroni's game, though. Don't Peroni's John Murphy. I got a game for you guys. You want to play it?
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Sure.
All right. So I floated this idea to Tom a couple weeks ago. He played it with Dan. It was sort of a spin on Rate That Game. I wanted to take it a step further, update the concept, especially because Dan is our Rate That Game chief. So I was like, I don't want to bring Rate That Game. I want to at least put a spin on it. So I'm calling it Rank These Games. And it is it's a slight evolution, Tom, of the game that I had you play the last time. So I'm going to present you guys with 3 games, all of them taken from the same year. And you have to tell me 2 things. I want you to put them in what you think is the correct order from best to least. And I wanted this to have a multiple point value, but because we're only doing 3 games, and if you'd have to do more than 3 games for it to actually work this way, I couldn't just be like, you get a point for each one that's in the right spot, because once 1 is wrong, that means 2 have to be wrong. So you're either getting 1 or 3 points or no points. So instead, what I'm going to be doing is asking you a specific question. Like, I want the worst game in the right spot gets you an extra point, or the game that's in the middle gets the right spot, gets the extra point, or the game that's so you're going to prioritize getting one of them in the right order. So for this first one, we're going to be talking about 3 games from the year 2005. So 3 games from the year 2005. If you remember, this year is the year that the Xbox 360 launched. Sure. Big deal. Tuna and I graduated high school. The Pope died. A lot of things happening in 2005. But also, quite a few big video games. For instance, the first Guitar Hero came out. God of War. The first God of War came out. And Resident Evil 4 came out. So three very big games came out that year. I also decided to do a different spin on this. None of these are bad games that we're talking about today. So there's no, throw you for a loops. So all of these are solid games. They're kind of celebrating games here. I want you to tell me, put them in the order from best to least, and you get a bonus point if you put the highest one in the right area. So whatever your top game
this is IGN. This is IGN, right?
Yeah, so they're all IGN. So best to least, God of War,
4.
Yeah, God of War, Resident Evil 4, and Guitar Hero are your 3 games.
Oh my god. They're all like probably within a point of each other.
Yeah. You get a point for getting the order correct, and you get a point if the top one, if the number 1 is in the right place.
What are the 3 games gonna just blank?
Well, if we get the order correct, we have the top one.
Of course, if you get the order correct, you're getting 2 points.
What was the 3 again?
God of War.
2 of them. Okay.
Resident Evil 4.
Okay, now I'm good.
And Guitar Hero.
I don't
the original Guitar Hero.
I blanked when I started writing my answer.
This is gonna seem nuts, but I feel like these are all like 9.3, 9.4, 9.5. You know what I mean?
I sent my answers in.
Yeah, same.
All right. Let's start with Dan. You want to say your answers out loud?
No, not really.
Tom, you want to say your answer?
Yeah, I put in last place. I put the original God of War, Resident Evil 4 in second, and Guitar Hero in number 1. I feel like literally any of these games could be. This could be any order, but something told me that this was correct.
I put Guitar Hero first, and I switched to the bottom 2 for you, Tom. So I got God of War, then Resident Evil.
Okay. And to make it sound more obtuse, a little less obtuse, just because the way I explained it was a little. Basically, what I'm going to ask each one of these is either for the best game, the middle game, or the last game, and you get a bonus point for putting them in the right order. So the prioritize here is, what do you think got the highest score? Dan went with Guitar Hero. Tom went with Guitar Hero. It was not Guitar Hero, which means that there are no points delivered on this round.
Which means it's a wash.
It is. It's a wash. God of War was the number 1 reviewed of the 3 that year, followed by Resident Evil, followed by Guitar Hero, the original.
What were the scores?
9.8, 9.5, 9.2. So yeah, they're all a lot of these are going to be relatively close to one another. Yeah. So that's going to be the harder part of it is trying to discern what do you think got the better score. Let's move on. We'll go a little forward in time. 2008. The Wii came out. Or sorry, the Wii was out. The 360 was out. The PS3 was out. So now we're new generation of games at this point, because the last time the 360 had just launched. Kinect, not here yet. Doesn't even exist. Financial crisis is looming. Obama just got elected. A lot of things happening. Super Smash Bros. Brawl came out that year. Also, Valve released Left 4 Dead. And the original Uncharted came out that year on the PlayStation 3. So I want you to tell me on this one, what got the worst score between Smash Brothers, Left 4 Dead, and Uncharted, and you get a bonus point if you put them all in the right order. So what has the worst score between Smash Brawl?
Oh, Brawl.
So you want worst score to best score, or do you just want the best score on top still and just get the worst one right?
The order is always going to be best to worst.
Okay.
And the thing you're going to get a point for is if you get the worst one in the right order.
Okay.
So I'm pretty confident on this.
What were the 3 games again? Because in my question I asked, I lost my answer.
That's fine. Smash Brothers Brawl.
Okay, I'm good. That was
Left 4 Dead and
Uncharted.
Uncharted.
That last, since he sent it already. Okay. Going lazy with it. There you go. Did you get my answer?
Yeah, I did. I just my system sounds I hear going off on the computer, and I don't understand how to make them go away because it's on do not disturb. Great. Let's go. Dan, you want to tell me what order you put everything in?
I had Left 4 Dead best, Uncharted in the middle, and then Smash is the worst. Smash Brawl is the worst.
Okay. And Tom?
I put Left 4 Dead in top, Smash in the middle, Uncharted in last place.
All right. Believe it or not, and I was surprised by this, Super Smash Bros. Brawl was the #1 game released that year, followed by Left 4 Dead, and then Uncharted at a 9.1, which means, Tom, you do get a point this round.
Wow, Uncharted still scored a 9.1?
Yeah, the original.
That's crazy because people, like, comparatively, Uncharted 1 is looked as the black sheep of the franchise, like the worst game. And it is, like, demonstrably, like, not nearly as good.
Having
as
played
others.
the others as well, it is the worst of them, but it's also not bad.
But no, at the time of release, and I think also like it was a technical marvel at the time.
That was
remember when Uncharted came out, they were like, "Look, the water sticks. You walk through the water, and he's wet." Like, oh my god!
Also, people were like, "Nathan Drake, look how realistic the character looks," and like, "Oh, look at the foliage when you're walking through the jungle."
Oh, like, yeah. I mean, it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways, but it was it is easily the worst of those.
I never played the fourth one.
It's good.
Yeah, maybe I should do that at some point.
The fourth one's good, yeah.
And the spin-off Lost Legacy is very good as well.
Maybe I should play it. Do they have like a remastered version?
Yes, for PS5.
Maybe I should do that. All right, so Tom, we got 1 point. We're gonna go forward again. 2010, the original Xbox Live gets shut down. The Kinect comes out, but we're not going to be talking about the Kinect. We're going to be talking about a couple other big games here. Mass Effect 2, Mario Galaxy 2, and Halo Reach, the final Halo game from Bungie. So Mass Effect 2, Mario Galaxy 2, and Halo Reach. I want you to tell me what was the #1 game that year. That will get you a point if you put the #1 game correct, and you'll get a bonus point if you put them all correct.
In.
Same.
All right. Let's start with Tom.
I said Mario in #1, Mass Effect 2 in 2, and Halo Reach in 3.
Okay. And Dan?
I went Mass Effect 2 as the #1, then Mario, then Halo Reach.
Okay. Well, the correct answer is Mario Galaxy 2 got a 10 out of 10.
I remember IGN,
score. Followed by Mass Effect 2, followed by Halo Reach. So Tom, you got the first available bonus point. Dan, you're still in this. There's still 4 points left, and Tom only has 3. So the game is not over yet. 2012. End of the world, Mayan calendar. Wii U comes out. And Telltale's The Walking Dead, along with Fez, an indie game, and Halo 4. Fez is a very popular puzzle indie game. Sorry, Dan, I should have realized.
I know, I've heard of Fez. I think
I wasn't sure
before.
All right, sent mine.
So the Telltale Walking Dead games, which I know, Dan, you loved those games.
I did.
I mean, I liked them a lot. They were very good.
I'm sending an order that I decided in my head before you even read the games out.
Okay.
I was going to go in that order. So.
And Tom?
I said Telltale, Fez, and then Halo.
Okay. All right.
I went Halo, Fez, Telltale.
Okay. Great. The correct order. Again, we're looking for the #1 for the point, and then bonus point if you get all correct. Halo 4 had a 9.8, followed by Fez with a 9.5, followed by Telltale's Walking Dead with a 9.3, which I believe means Tom.
Wait, you said Halo was
Halo was #1. So Tom,
Halo was
you said 9.4, and then you said Fez 9.5.
Yeah, Halo had 9 points. So it's Halo, Fez, Walking Dead is the correct answer.
What were the scores?
What were the scores?
9.8.
9.8.
9
for Halo.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
which means 9.8
for Halo
9.8.
It was highly
baby.
reviewed, and I still think it's not a great Halo, but I knew it was going to be a high review.
Ryan McCaffrey on that fucking Xbox source over there at IGN.
Well, one of the things that
Christ.
people forget about Halo 4 is it was a little bit of a technical marvel for the end of the 360 life cycle, because it was the first game that Microsoft basically built in that thing where you could now install the games partially on the hard drive to play them, because you had to, I believe, for Halo 4 to run it. And they were pushing like 1080 60, like, or 720 like 60 and shit. Like, that game looked unbelievable for an Xbox 360 game at the time. Like, visually, it was doing a lot of things the other Halo games couldn't do, but it was like they literally like had to find a way to like work around the system limitations. And they were like, all right, you have to install this game on you have to have an external hard drive to be able to play this now. Even it was crazy. So anyone's game. Tom has the lead 3-2 points. Last round.
Wait, hold on. I only got Tom. Oh, you got a point earlier, Tom?
He got double points.
I got double
in the previous round. Yeah. Tom got 2 points in 2010, and he got 1 point in 2008.
Okay.
I got the last place on the second question, and I got both.
I got you
in the third question.
Gotcha.
Yes. 2016. Two of these games have the same score. One of them does not. Two of these games are tied either for last or for first.
Okay.
I want you to when you send me your answer, tell me which game you think is not tied.
Okay.
So two of these have the same score. One of them does not. Tell me which one is not tied. And then otherwise put them in the correct order. If they're tied and they're in the correct order, it doesn't matter which one's above the other. They just have to be, next to each other. So that's why I need to know which one is not tied. So if you think the tie is for second, if it's tie for second, put your first game and then a space and then your second two games. If you think the tie is for first, put your first two games a space and then the second game. Got it? 2016, nothing bad happened. Nothing eventful happened that year other than the Unranked podcast launched. Nothing that no one ever wants to talk about again or anything bad happened in 2016. Pokemon Sun and Moon came out. That's one of our games that we're going to be talking about here.
Fuck, 6 years ago. Jesus. Okay.
Titanfall 2 came out. And Overwatch came out.
Yeah.
So two of these games have the same score. They're either tied for first or tied for second. You got to tell me which one is not tied. Put them in the correct order. I actually, when I was making this, I forgot. I saw the tie and I was like, oh, I got to swap one of these out before we do the show. And then I didn't. So here we are.
All right. I sent mine.
Okay. And Dan, you sent yours as well. All right. We will not have a need for a tiebreaker. So let's see what everyone has done. Dan, which game do you think, what's the order of games that you put in? Tell me which ones you think the tie are.
I thought that Sun and Moon and Titanfall were the tie.
Okay. And Overwatch was not?
Above Overwatch.
Okay. So you think Sun and Moon and Pokemon are tied for first. Overwatch got second. And Tom, what did you do?
I also said Titanfall and Pokemon were tied, but I said that Overwatch was above them. So they were second, tied for second, respectively. Not respectively. But you know what I mean.
I can tell you right now, you guys are correct in that Overwatch is not in the tie. So one of you is getting 2 points, the other is getting no points. Overwatch got a 9.4. And Pokemon Sun and Moon, Titanfall 2, got a 9. Meaning that Tom gets the 2 points. Very close.
Tuna would not be happy with this.
No, Tuna would be very mad about this.
Tuna would be so pissed.
Yeah, no, the next time I do it, I'm gonna have to make sure the points are a little bit more spaced out. But for the first time, it was more of I was like, I would try something new, and I got games that I knew everyone would know, so it just went with high scoring games. So Tom, you are the first winner of Rank These games. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's do one of these. Dan.
You can find me somewhere around North America at any given time. I'm also at Big Danny 15 on Twitter as long as it lasts. and on PlayStation and on Xbox on the Big Danny 50.
It's all in the show notes. Tom?
Great Britom on each and every platform.
I'm Christian Humes. I'm at Christian Humes on the Hive. We're the Unranked Podcast, everybody. We're going to see you next week like we usually do. Stay unranked.
So sweet.